Joyfully I welcome Gladys Blakely and Julie McConville, nurses with the Southern Trust. And look, we're into schools and into college. We want to make sure that there's good health within the population being educated. And you have responsibility for delivering that thing. And that's it. Is that a relatively new kind of involvement, or has there always been a school's nursing service?
The school nursing service is actually one of the first services that was set up. It's a very old.
Really?
Within nursing, school nursing service is very old.
Isn't it funny that in all my years in journalism, it's the first time I've heard about it? Isn't that dreadful? So, I'm very sorry, I ought to have known better. Yeah, so it's there to, and what's the function of it? Obviously to make people healthy, but you know, on your day-to-day activities in the service, what's the raison d'etre?
Well, school nursing, for example, I manage the school nursing service in Urianmore locality.
Yes.
And Armagh Dungannon, and we have a team of 8 school nurses within Urianmore.
Yeah.
There's 62 primary schools and 17 post-primaries in the Urianmore
So you're
locality.
doing the big guys and girls as well?
Yeah, so we cross from P1 right through to upper 6, lower 6.
Absolutely.
So we have a large remit, and within that we follow a programme called Child Health Promotion Programme.
Right.
And that has certain structures that we do, and we see all children in primary 1.
Okay, now you, Julie, how long have you been doing this kind of work?
I qualified, I mean, I've been obviously nursing for 20 plus years.
Have you?
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah, I'm not going to say exactly how many, but...
No, but that's
And I've
great.
been involved in the public health nursing role for 16, 17 years.
Can you close your eyes and for a minute and think of the amount of, if you had a big cauldron full of good and you were putting it into a big reservoir, think of the good you have done in those 16 years. You've done so much good for people.
Well,
What way does that make a nurse feel?
Well, I think most people who go into nursing with the very best, you know, aspirations, do their very best for all the kind of patients and children in our case, you know, to get the very best outcomes for those children and young people that we're working with.
You're at the very cutting edge, of course, in certain situations, maybe not with the children, but as a nurse, you're seeing people at their very weakest, at their most vulnerable time.
Well, I suppose we're different. I mean, I suppose we're public health nurses. I mean, our focus is working with the well population, and the focus is keeping them well. So, you know, myself and Gladys would have both came from a background of nursing, whereas you say we were in wards, we were looking after sick people, but I suppose public health nursing is different.
Yeah, it is. I can see that. But you must have had your fair share of heartbreak in dealing with situations. I know maybe you're not involved from a family point of view, but nevertheless there are people you get to know.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
That's a difficult one.
It's a privilege. It's a privilege to be a nurse and to be working with families and with patients at that point in time. But coming back, I suppose, to our role, as school nurses, you know, as Gladys was saying, our school nurses are out there working hard in partnership with schools. You know, we couldn't speak highly enough, Gladys, would that be fair to say? We couldn't speak highly enough of our partnership with schools.
Yeah.
I mean, even things like the paediatric flu programme, which we're delivering now, I mean, that's a massive undertaking to go into every school and give every child in the primary school a flu vaccine. And I suppose
that's interesting, isn't it? The children get it, and the
Yes.
old get it.
Yes.
And the assumption is in the middle period, you should be okay. If you've looked after yourself early, then you look after yourself late in the middle. No?
Well, I suppose in primary care, GPs are working hard to give all the adults who are at risk their flu vaccine. So there would be a significant proportion of adults get their flu jab as well if they're asthmatic, if they've diabetes.
Yeah, of course. But Gladys, in the schools, like a flu, take a flu virus. It's flu virus, is it? It is, yeah. A flu virus in the schools, it would jump around the school like the horses going around the entry at the Grand National, just leapfrogging and blah, 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 and people are down with it. I know where I am in Africa, in the sub-Saharan Africa, the noise you hear in the mornings at 6 o'clock when they gather to have their prayers. You hear prayers, you hear singing, and you hear coughing.
Yes.
And those are children, you know.
Yes.
Are children more susceptible to getting these things?
Well, They're susceptible because the flu virus circulates at this time of the year from September through to December, and the vaccine's made very specifically every year for a different virus that's circulating. So yes, it's in the community, the bugs are there circulating, so children are vulnerable to the flu and they can become quite ill.
And does the type of flu, I saw this recently in one of my grandchildren, for goodness sake, she got a cold, a bad cold, temperature went up, and the poor creature was almost gone, only we were careful and got it sorted out.
Yes.
But you mentioned the virus changing every year. Does the virus change every year? A different kind of different strain?
Yes, so the pharmaceutical companies will start developing a flu vaccine every year. Year on year it will be different.
And they would have some sort of intelligence that would lead them to the kind of enemy they're dealing with.
Yes, exactly. It's very specific.
Wow, goodness.
So the vaccine's ready for September when the flu virus starts circulating, and it's again prevention.
Absolutely.
And our elderly population are vulnerable to the flu, so hopefully, you know, it reduces the amount of flu circulating in the whole community, which is...
You guys, you and your team, you're central to good health.
Yes, I feel we are, and we work very closely with school, and each of our school nurses is highly trained. They have done the Registered General Nursing, and some of the nurses have gone on to do a specialist public health degree, and we're continually developing and updating our knowledge, and we're very well invested in so that we have a good knowledge base and can support parents and education. So we're like a partnership working, which is very important.
It is good. And with the parents then, children coming into school, nowadays you see, it doesn't always happen, but you see children walking along the road with a can of Coke and a bag of crisps, and that's breakfast. You know, if children are getting the right kind of nutriment into their system at an early age, that's building them up strongly, is it not?
It is, yes, And I suppose obesity is one of the greatest challenges of the 21st century. You know, any help and advice and support that we can give parents, you know,
stitch up the hole between their nose and their chin. That'll sort the obesity thing out. Maybe it's not that simple.
People need the right information, as you say, about what is a healthy diet, and they also need good information, because I suppose we are in an age where children are spending more time sitting, playing, sedentary, and they need advice about you know, how much physical activity children need, and you know, so there's lots of ways that school nurses can support parents with different issues.
And I mean, all the children that come into primary one are offered a health appraisal, and that would be their height and their weight and their vision and their hearing screen.
Is that kind of body mass index thing?
Yes, well what we do is we send a consent form out where parents are asked to fill in about their children's health, and they sign the form, and we ask the parents to come in and we have a conversation with them about public health issues and support parents, and then we test their children's eyes and ears and do their height and weight, and we can show very clearly to a parent on a chart, you know, where their child should be, and to support them if there needs any information.
One of the areas you mentioned there, sight. We would talk occasionally to an expert in children's sight, and Michael would tell us that in one classroom alone that he tested sight, a quarter of the pupils had a problem, and no one realised there was a problem, you know. In my day at school, we had there was an optician come in and tested the eyes in the school. That doesn't happen anymore, does it?
The school nurses use an evidence-based vision screening tool.
Oh, yeah.
And it will identify the children that need further assessment by an optometrist or an ophthalmologist, depending on what the issue is with the child.
I'm glad you said those two words. I wouldn't have fit to say those two. An optometrist and an ophthalmologist. They're glorious words. I love them.
So say, for example, last year in the Southern Trust, we screened 5,900 approximately children in P1, and out of those 720 would have needed ongoing referral. So we think it's about 1 in 7 or 1 in 8 children will need referral onwards for further assessment.
Now, once they trip over into second level, new issues arrive in the health program for young people. They're out there in a very different world. They are, I'm sure, at a certain age, 16, 17, sexually active, and that can be a jungle for them. Are you able to assist and to give advice and to make sure that the sexual health of the young secondary school population is okay.
Well, I suppose I would just like to say, you know, not every 16 or 17-year-old young person will be sexually active.
Oh, indeed not.
Yeah, some may be, but I suppose we don't want to label young people.
Oh God, no, I wouldn't do that in a million years.
In a certain way.
But I mean, I'm working on statistics that tell me that's the case. Yeah. And is that something you brush under the carpet, or do you deal with it openly?
Oh no, school nurses would be well equipped. Gladys, would that be fair to say? Would be well equipped to help a young person if that was an issue for them.
Yeah.
And there are other services, obviously, in the trust as well, where young people can get support around.
I think it's important that we are that link person to direct people to local services.
No, that's a very,
so
very
like signposting that we can support young people and say, well, this is the address, this is the number. And in a confidential way, we can talk one-to-one. So I think that's important that we support.
And then there's the whole issue of mental health, because they're under such pressure, you know.
Yeah.
What's your experience on the ground in the area of their depression, of the kind of stress they're under? It's very competitive. Once upon a time, I would have looked, and the news would be, oh, Japan, look at the children in Japan. They're working. There's big stress on them. Sure, it's the same here now. You know, how are young people generally handling it?
I suppose it's very individual, again, to the families and to how they're coping. And I suppose we really focus, one of our Healthy Child, Healthy Promotion Programme is we see all children in Year 8. That's Form 1, and we have a health questionnaire we put out, and at that time we hope that parents and the child will fill this in together and give us some indication of any issues. And at that time we measure and weigh children and look at their body mass index, and if there is an issue there, we have programmes that we run to support children, but very much so we are about supporting children and listening to them.
Julie, an awful lot of this, what about parents? They need to be very proactive in this. Yeah. It's the parents who bucket the food into them in the morning. It's the parents who allow them to sit down and play the games and not get out and play. We used to play skipping and hopscotch and stuff like that, and football and all the rest of it. That's not happening anymore. Is there a kind of a cyclical thing and a kind of a domino effect? The parent is not healthy. No healthy lifestyle. The child, no healthy lifestyle. The child is not healthy. Yeah. Is that a cycle that perhaps exists and needs to be broken?
I do feel, that a lot of parents put emphasis on encouraging their children to be involved in activities outside school, swimming, football, Gaelic, rugby, whatever, and those things are very good for children. But I suppose if you're a parent who wasn't, maybe wasn't interested in sports when you're younger, I suppose this is all about giving parents the information, as Gladys said, signposting them to possible opportunities. But, I accept that you're saying some people do find it a challenge to be active and to eat more healthily. And I mean, even in terms of, probably our high-calorie foods are cheaper in supermarkets. There's so many issues in relation to this. I mean, parents just need to be supported and helped to make the best decisions possible for their children. And I suppose we're there just to support people, give them the advice and information that they need, and signpost them.
I'm going to disallow one word you used there, just. We're there just to help. You're there hugely importantly to help. Never just, because you're at the heart of the program. Without you guys, we'd be a lot worse, that much more worse off. At the end of the day.
Well, all of the school nurses want to do their very best for all of the children and families that they work with. We're conscious that families have different challenges, and we're there to assist people.
Now the schools. When you come into the schools are a busy environment these days. Do you have time fitting in your work into the curriculum, or do the headmasters and mistresses make it happen, or is it difficult?
Well, I suppose we're about building up relationships. So as I was saying before, we've a named school nurse for each school. So
she gets to know the people.
Yeah, you get to know the people. Really important. And I mean, I have to say, in my experience, I started school nursing in '96.
My goodness.
And, you know, I've been doing it for a while, and all that time I found it really positive, our relationships with education. They are more than helpful. They fully take on board that we're there as part of the school working life, and they always facilitate us, and if they can't, they make further arrangements. And, you know, I couldn't speak highly enough of education.
That's good.
And the parents, and, you know, we have a good engagement, I feel, with education, and it's been very positive.
Julie, you're both drawn to nursing. At what point in your life did you know you wanted to be a Florence Nightingale or a Mother Teresa, so to speak?
Always would have been interested in working in the care. From primary school age child, would have always been interested in being in a caring profession.
You would have been there with your doll in the and lifting it and looking after it.
Didn't like dolls that much.
You didn't?
Not a good sign. Liked animals, pets.
Yeah, well, that is a good sign.
That
is a good sign.
Had rabbits and pups and hamsters and everything.
And that all would have started as a girl.
Yeah.
In Craigavon, that's where you did. You grow up in Craigavon?
Did, yes.
Well, you have the lake, Loch Ness there, and all the rest of it, whatever.
So I do think you're right. I do think that people that come into nursing, or I hope that people that come into nursing are coming in with that caring.
And obviously you did too when you came in. It was a natural for you.
Yes, I did feel. Remember, if I track back to the start of my nursing career, there's always, you were very tired after your shift, but you did have that sense of...
Good sign if you're tired after your shift.
You did have a sense of, gosh, I feel...
You've done...
Felt really good to be working in the profession. And as Julie said, a privilege to think of some of the people I've nursed now are still in my mind, and all the friendships and relationships you met, and it teaches you a lot.
And still alive, a lot of them, because through your good offices and your intervention and you're helping all the way.
Yeah.
But I was amazed. Now, I said it to you earlier, Julie, and you kind of didn't maybe take it that it was serious. But I have seen in the news on a constant basis in England, they're now talking about including a module within the nursing training on compassion. That people are having to be taught compassion. That's not the way of us here. You people are naturally compassionate.
I think people are naturally caring and compassionate, but I think as a concept, or as a, in terms of theory around compassion, I think it's important for nurses to study that. I think you can get compassion fatigue, there can be issues like that. So I think it's important for us to be, in our profession, it's important for us to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
And it's important for us to be able to go the extra mile all the time, to be compassionate to the people that we're working with, and to be compassionate to each other.
Yeah,
because
that's interesting.
Why
to each other?
Because we work in teams, and we need to be caring about each other as well.
And to watch out for sort of problems. My partner nurse, well, that was a tough one we had to deal with.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Let's go and have a coffee.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that's...
Yeah.
So this proves nurses are human.
Yes.
Very good. But I mean, there'd be absolutely no good. You'd be no good to the world if you're a 100% compassion. You need the ability to be compassionate, put it slightly to the one side, and get into the cutting and the stitching and the cleaning and the healing. It's not about compassion there. It's about the cold face of toughness. You have to do it.
Well, I suppose if you take it back to school nursing, if we have parents coming in that are having difficulties at that point in their time and they're with a school nurse, that is not, their children may be well, but there may be other issues and vulnerabilities in there, as I would know that all my school nurses would know how to listen and actively listen and be compassionate, and they can share whatever it is that's worrying them, and we can signpost or help or do anything, and that's the level of compassion I suppose in school nursing we're looking towards, that we can, they feel confident and that we're highly trained nurses. We have lots of experience in school nursing, and we've heard things before. You can't tell us anything we haven't heard before.
And you're there to pick up, as you say, on things like we've seen awful situations of children. Childline was invented to help children speak.
Yes.
sometimes your people are in the right place to pick up on something that can be dealt with early.
Yes.
And the problem removed.
Yes, and supporting parents to give them the opportunity is very important, that our school nurses are there for that.
Julie, if you hadn't been a nurse, what would you have been? You have time to think about it.
Maybe I would have. I like children.
Yeah.
I suppose that you know, and you know, come in. So maybe teaching or something.
Teaching or
I
something
would have,
like that. Yeah.
you know, something along that line.
Yeah, and you, Gladys?
Well, it's probably what I would like to do, something with animals, like wildlife photography.
Wow.
I watched David Attenborough last night, and I think, oh,
was it good last night?
Yeah, it was amazing. It just looks very appealing. I'm sure it's standing around a lot as well.
Oh, it is. I can tell you it is. But you know the other thing I was looking at the news this morning, and in the news this morning, they were talking. It was the World Service. I heard it on. They were talking about bats.
Oh yes,
and
I heard that.
If I say you're bats, that means you're not wise. But bats are very clever. There's two bats going for the one bit of food. This bat will put out. He'll jam my echo signaling system. He'll put out a do-do-do-do-do, and that puts me off the scent. So he gets me off the scent, and bing, he goes in there. Andrew's looking at me and saying, what is this to do with school nursing? You know? But he's a good lad. He's great. He's great. I want to thank you for coming in.
Okay, thank
You're
you.
wonderful people.
Thank you.
And I know, was it okay?
Yes, it was fine.
You were worried at the beginning?
Yeah, a
wee
little.
bit. You must come back.
Oh,
The only sin is that you don't come back.
Okay, thank
Take
you.
care. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you very
And you
much.
too. Come
thank
back.
you.
You're most
Okay,
welcome.
Thank you.
Our nurses there, we have Gladys Blakely and Julie McConville of the School Nursing Service.